Some women don't speak loudly, yet they are heard everywhere they go. Their energy doesn't demand attention, it commands it. They don't follow trends, yet they set a tone that lingers. It's not about status, style, or perfection. It's something far more subtle, more ancient, something that resonates beneath language, beneath logic. Carl Jung believed that much of human connection happens beneath the surface, through the language of archetypes and emotion, through unconscious recognition. We are drawn to certain people, not because of how they look, but because of what they awaken in us. And certain women, often unknowingly, awaken something primal, a sense of depth, a sense of mystery, a quiet but powerful pull. This kind of magnetism isn't created, it's remembered. It doesn't rely on strategy or seduction. It flows from alignment with the deeper feminine psyche. Jung often described not the social performance of femininity, but the inner embodiment of it. These women don't try to impress, they don't chase, they don't shape-shift to please. Instead, they move from a place of rootedness, calm, whole, and quietly radiant. In a world that often encourages women to be more, do more, prove more, this type of presence feels radical and unforgettable. In this writing, we'll explore 7 essential habits Jung would recognize as markers of this kind of woman. These habits don't shout, they don't push, but they transform, because they aren't tools for becoming someone else. They are pathways back to yourself. Now let us begin. 1. She moves from wholeness, not want. There is a quiet power in a woman who is not searching for something outside herself. A woman whose steps are not driven by the hunger to be loved, chosen, or validated, but by the fullness of her own being. The first habit of an unforgettable woman is this: she moves from wholeness, not from want. She is not waiting to be completed. She does not seek a man to rescue her, attention to affirm her, or achievements to define her worth. She may want love, but she does not need it to feel alive. She walks through the world as if she already belongs, because in her inner world she does. Carl Jung taught that the psyche suffers when we seek externally what must be found within. The magnetic woman has made the inward journey. She has turned toward her wounds instead of away. She has sat with the ache, the absence, the emptiness, and filled it with presence, not distraction. So when she loves, she does so from overflow, not lack. When she gives, she does not lose herself in the act. When she listens, she is not performing patience, she is simply present. This kind of woman is not always easy to spot, because she does not demand attention, but she is felt deeply. She carries the energy of someone who no longer bargains with life, she accepts it. She doesn't chase love but invites it, not through effort, but through embodiment. She doesn't twist herself into shapes to be more palatable. She doesn't abandon herself to fit into someone else's story. She writes her own, and she writes it from the inside out. In Jungian terms, she is in contact with the self, not just the ego, not just the mask she wears in public, but the deep inner knowing of who she truly is. And because of that, she cannot be manipulated easily. She cannot be rushed. She cannot be owned. To be near her is to feel the difference between attraction and attachment. She is not a flame to be consumed. She is a hearth, steady, warm, and self-sustaining. And that, above all, is what makes her unforgettable. There is a kind of strength that doesn't roar. It hums quietly beneath the surface, born not from perfection, but from having survived the fire. The second habit of the unforgettable woman is this: she has faced her own darkness and made peace with it. She doesn't pretend to be light all the time. She doesn't cover her scars with smiles or bury her pain beneath performance. Instead, she carries her past with reverence, like sacred soil in which her roots now grow. She is not afraid of her own shadow, because she has walked beside it, listened to its voice, and refused to let it define her. Carl Jung believed that true power comes from integrating the shadow, the hidden, rejected, and wounded parts of the self. The woman who has done this work becomes magnetic, not because she is flawless, but because she is whole. She no longer needs to hide, to justify, or to seek redemption in someone else's eyes. Her acceptance of self disarms the fear in others. This woman does not collapse when triggered. She knows the difference between a reaction and a response. When she feels jealousy, anger, or grief, she does not run. She sits, she breathes. she feels. And in that quiet bravery, she transforms chaos into clarity. Her presence speaks to something raw and real. She doesn't preach healing, she embodies it. Others can sense it even if they can't name it. They feel safe in her company, not because she promises perfection, but because she allows space for truth. She does not use her pain as currency. She does not bleed on those who didn't cut her. But she also doesn't erase what she's endured. Her past does not define her, but it informs the depth with which she now sees, loves, and leads. To the unconscious mind, this kind of woman is unforgettable. Not because she shines above the rest, but because she reminds others of what it means to be real and still rise. Her darkness is not a burden. It is her alchemy. She does not hide her shadows. She holds them. And in doing so, she becomes a woman not only of light, but of depth. But there is another quality, just as magnetic, that shapes how she moves through the world free. She speaks with energy, not excess. There's a certain power in a woman who doesn't waste her words. She is not cold, she is not distant. But when she speaks, people lean in, not because of volume, but because of resonance. The third habit of the unforgettable woman is this: she communicates with presence, not performance. She doesn't speak to fill space, to be liked, or to keep the silence from growing awkward. Her words are not rehearsed, but they are intentional. And that's what makes them land. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious listens not only to what is said, but to how it is said, and why. The magnetic woman speaks from alignment. Her words rise from the same inner place she lives from, grounded, clear, calm. She is not trying to convince. She is not seeking applause. She is expressing something real. In a culture saturated with noise, opinions, arguments, performances, her calm clarity is disarming. She doesn't need to dominate a room with her voice. Her presence speaks first. She doesn't rush to respond. She lets the moment settle before offering her truth. And when she does, it cuts through the clutter like a bell in fog. She listens with her whole body. She speaks with her whole spirit. And because she isn't trying to be understood by everyone, her words reach those they are meant for more deeply. To the masculine psyche, this feels different, unfamiliar, strangely powerful. She is not reacting, she is revealing. She is not debating, she is expressing. There is no hidden agenda, no hunger for agreement. Just truth, calmly given. And that is rare. Her voice becomes a tuning fork for others, reminding them how it feels to speak with integrity, to mean what they say, to say only what matters. Her communication is not decoration, it is declaration. She does not speak often, but when she does, it echoes. 4. She honors her standards without apology. There is something undeniably powerful about a woman who knows what she wants and refuses to lower her standards to be more acceptable. The fourth habit of an unforgettable woman is this: she is devoted to her own values, even when it costs her connection. She doesn't beg to be chosen. She chooses herself over and over again. Not from arrogance, but from clarity. And that clarity creates gravity. You can feel it when she enters a room. Her energy says, I know what I deserve, and I'm not afraid to be alone if I don't receive it. Carl Jung believed that true inner authority comes from living in alignment with the self, the deeper, wiser part of us that knows who we are and what we stand for. The magnetic woman lives from that place. Her life is not built on compromise but on congruence. She doesn't play small to make others comfortable. She doesn't soften her no to avoid conflict. She does not water down her worth to fit into shallow containers. And so when she says yes, it means something. When she stays, it's intentional. When she walks away, it's final. People may call her intimidating, but that's only because they are not used to a woman who will not bend herself to be more digestible. She is not harsh, she is honest. She is not distant, she is discerning. Her boundaries are not barriers, they are invitations to rise. She is the woman who turns down attention that lacks depth, love that lacks respect, and comfort that lacks integrity. Because she is not seeking safety, she is seeking truth. To the unconscious mind, she becomes unforgettable, not because she is always available, but because she is rare. In a world full of women afraid to take up space, she has claimed hers and guards it fiercely. She is not hard to love, she is just unwilling to be loved the wrong way. 5. She doesn't fear solitude. Many try to escape silence, to fill their days with noise, company, and movement, anything but themselves. But the fifth habit of an unforgettable woman is this: she does not fear solitude. She uses it. She is not lonely when alone. She is alive. In solitude she doesn't shrink. She expands. She listens not to others but to the still voice within. She does not need constant attention to feel real, nor companionship to feel complete. While others run from their own inner world, she walks into it like a cathedral. Carl Jung taught that solitude is not isolation, but integration. It is in aloneness where the psyche meets itself, and the woman who dares to be alone, who sits in stillness without reaching for distraction, becomes someone no external force can define. This woman doesn't fill her time to avoid feeling. She lets the silence speak. She lets the emptiness become space. She lets space become insight, and from that insight her clarity grows. She is not hard to reach, but she will not abandon herself just to be close to someone else. She will not say yes to connection that costs her peace. She knows that some people seek others only to escape themselves, and she is not interested in being a hiding place. Her solitude is not punishment. It is power. To others this may feel unfamiliar, even unsettling, because most are drawn to women who need them. But this woman doesn't operate from need. She chooses. She chooses what nourishes her, what respects her, what feels true. And that choice makes her magnetic. There is a glow to a woman who has sat with herself long enough to know who she is, who has faced her own silence and returned with wisdom, who is not waiting to be saved from herself because she has already done the saving. She does not fear the quiet. She is the quiet. And that quiet becomes the space where others feel most alive. Some women hear more than words. They hear energy, silence, the tremble behind the smile. The sixth habit of an unforgettable woman is this: she listens to what isn't being said. She is not just present, she is attuned. While others hear stories, she hears subtext. She reads between the lines, not with suspicion, but with empathy. She feels the spaces where truth hides and recognizes the ache others don't have the language for. Not because she's trying to analyze, but because she's learned to listen from the soul, not just the ears. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious mind speaks in symbols, gestures, dreams, never directly, always through layers. The magnetic woman has learned this language. She does not rush to respond. She pauses. She feels. She allows what's hidden to surface gently, without force. People find themselves telling her things they didn't mean to share. They feel seen in ways they haven't felt in years. Not because she probes, but because she is safe. She holds presence like a vessel, not to fix or change, but to understand. She doesn't interrupt with advice. She doesn't compete for attention. She allows what is unspoken to breathe. This type of listening is rare. It is healing. It is intimate in a way that words can never be. And in her presence others feel permission to be real, to stop performing, to drop the mask. To the masculine psyche, this is magnetic, almost unsettling. Because she sees what others miss. She touches what others avoid. And she does it not to control, but to connect. Jung believed that true healing happens not when we are analyzed, but when we are received without judgment. The unforgettable woman embodies this truth. She creates space where people find themselves again, not by force, but by her calm, intuitive listening. She knows that what is not said often reveals the most, and that real connection happens, not in the words but in the pauses between them. Some women were not born to follow, they were born to align, to walk paths that feel true, even when they are misunderstood. The seventh and final habit of the unforgettable woman is this: she chooses alignment over approval. She does not betray her inner voice to gain affection. She does not edit her truth to be more likable. While the world teaches women to please, to smile, to soften, to be agreeable at all costs, this woman chooses something far more radical: integrity. Carl Jung wrote that the self, the deepest, most authentic part of the psyche, calls us not to be good in the eyes of others, but whole in the eyes of our soul. The unforgettable woman has heard that call, and she has answered. She understands that approval is fleeting. It shifts with moods, with people, with expectation. But alignment is steady. It roots her when she's alone. It guides her when choices are hard. It protects her from the kind of love that demands her silence. She has disappointed others, but she has not abandoned herself. She has walked away from comfort, but toward freedom. She has been called too much, too honest, too intense, and yet she has never been more herself. There is a glow in her, not born from attention but from truth. Her life may not please everyone, but it pleases the one who matters most, the version of her that looks back from the mirror each morning. To the unconscious, this kind of woman is unforgettable. Not because she conforms, but because she reminds us what it feels like to be free. Free from pretending, free from performing, free from the prison of external validation. She moves from inner yes. She speaks from inner knowing. She stands on inner ground. And in doing so, she becomes a lighthouse in a world full of drift. Carl Jung believed that the soul speaks long before the mind understands. And for many women, that voice comes not in words but in tension, in restlessness, in the soft ache that says, this isn't quite me. This life doesn't quite fit. But instead of listening, she was taught to adjust, to be softer, quieter, smaller. She learned to smile when she wanted to speak, to say it's fine when it wasn't, to measure her worth by how much she could give, not how deeply she could live. She was rewarded for being good, not real, for being desirable, not whole. And slowly that fire within her began to dim, not extinguished but hidden, waiting, watching, hoping she'd come back for it one day. Because the soul never forgets itself. Jung didn't believe healing meant becoming better. He believed it meant becoming whole. And wholeness requires remembering all the parts of ourselves we've abandoned to be accepted. The wild part, the soft part, the angry part, the sensual part, the truth-telling, boundary-setting, emotionally radiant part. The part that was never meant to be polite, only powerful. And when a woman finally turns inward, finally chooses to come home to herself, it's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. It happens while she's brushing her hair, folding laundry, looking at herself a second too long in the mirror, and suddenly realizing, this version of me is not all of me. That's where it begins, not with a revolution, but with a reorientation. From that moment forward, she no longer moves from need, but from knowing. She no longer contorts herself to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. She no longer performs to earn what she was born worthy of. And this shift, it changes everything. Because a woman who chooses herself is a woman who becomes undeniable. Her energy changes before her wardrobe does. Her voice steadies before her circumstances do. Her posture softens, but her standards rise. She no longer asks permission to take up space. She no longer begs to be chosen. She becomes the chooser. She becomes the rhythm. She becomes the home she spent years looking for in others. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And when a woman accepts that privilege, everything around her rearranges. Not because she demands it, but because her energy can no longer be ignored. She doesn't just walk into a room anymore. She alters it. Because her presence now carries something rare, non-negotiated selfhood. She doesn't need to prove her worth. She embodies it. She doesn't ask, am I too much? She says, this is my truth. Stay if you can hold it. She doesn't entertain love that asks her to shrink. She only welcomes love that can stand in the fire with her and not flinch. And no, this path is not always easy. It is often lonely. Because when you stop abandoning yourself, you realize how many places you never truly belonged to begin with. You see the friendships that relied on your silence, the relationships that fed on your self-denial, the spaces where your light was only welcome if it didn't shine too brightly. But once you taste this kind of truth, you can never go back. Not really. You may doubt, you may grieve, but you cannot unknow what you now know. You were never meant to live halfway, and that's what makes you magnetic. Not your beauty, not your charm, not your ability to be chosen by others, but your devotion to choosing yourself. The world doesn't tell women this often enough, but hear me now. You are not here to be tolerable. You are here to be true. You are not here to earn love. You are here to remember it, within you, around you, as you. And yes, you may have spent years giving your light to people who couldn't hold it. Yes, you may have lost yourself in love that called itself safe, but felt like slow erasure. Yes, you may have forgotten what it felt like to belong to yourself, but the forgetting is not the end. The remembering is beginning now. Because the woman inside you, the one who knows what peace feels like, what truth sounds like, what fire tastes like, she is still here, waiting, watching, whispering, and now, she sees you listening. So if you're reading this, and your chest feels tight, or your eyes feel warm, or your throat feels like it wants to speak something it hasn't said in years, let it, say it, write it, live it. And if this message touched something sacred in you, I invite you to share it, not for the algorithm, not for attention, but because your voice may be the echo that helps another woman remember hers. And if you're still here with me at the end of this video, tell me in the comments, what part of yourself are you ready to reclaim? I read every single one. This isn't just a video, it's a mirror. And maybe, finally you're ready to look. Welcome home. See you in the next video.